Now recently I released a top 5 of the most overpowered weapons in Elden Ring. You guys seem to be enjoying it, but equally you were quick to let me know that I've completely missed out one of the most crucial weapons in that top 5, being the Death Poker. One of you telling me that it can even do 30,000 damage with each use. Now I'm not gonna lie, I knew it was decent, but I didn't think it was that good. So I went and obviously picked it up for myself because surely it's not that Oh. So, if you couldn't tell already, today we're going to be dedicating a video to that secret weapon that I've completely overlooked, being the Death Poker. And if you want to mimic doing astronomical amounts of damage with each use of this weapon, then obviously stay tuned because we're going to be diving into the build and allowing you to become an absolute beast. So of course, make sure that you hit the like button if you happen to like any part of this video, and make sure that you're subscribed for more juicy content. And then now that you've done that, let's jump straight into this insane Death Poker's build. Obviously, first of all, just to let you know how you even obtain this weapon, as you saw at the very beginning, we need to defeat a death bird in order to obtain it. Specifically, one hiding just sort of southeast from the southern swamp bank site of Grace, and the exact locations where like the massive skull is embedded in the cliff, so it's fairly hard to miss once you're at that site of Grace. If you head there, you should be able to see the death bird in that vicinity, and then all you need to do is defeat that death bird because he is the one wielding the Death Poker. Post-edit Jazza here, just butting in real quick. I forgot to mention that you can only get this at night. For those of you that don't know, some of the death birds only spawn at night. This is one of them, which is why I'm considering it a secret weapon. But just make sure that you're coming here at night and the bird should be there for you. Anyway, back to the other Jazza. Now, once you've got that, you'll notice that it scales best with dexterity, but also scales with strength and intelligence seems to be the thing that scales the least. However, with this build, we are going to be heavily delving into intelligence because the Ash of War is the thing that does that immense amount of damage when used correctly. Although the game is telling you that the scaling with intelligence is the worst, that is the thing that's going to be buffing the Ash of War because it's a ghost flame attack which scales with intelligence. Although the weapon itself doesn't scale, the Ash of War will scale best with intelligence. I have tried and tested this build many times, putting so many different points into the different scaling aspects, but intelligence is the one we need to go for. And just to throw up those stats on screen specifically, here was my final build around it. So it's a level 150 build as always, but we've got 50 vigor, 25 mind, 25 endurance, 15 strength and 17 dexterity because that's what we need to wield the weapon and use the Ash of War correctly, and then the rest of the points all go into intelligence essentially, as much as you can up to 80. You could potentially take some away from vigor and round it up to 80 to get the absolute most out of the damage output, but in the end I decided to go with the extra health because we use a lesser armor set for the final build as well, so having the extra health is quite handy. But essentially the main points there are to put everything you can into intelligence, because with that mixed in we are also going to be running these talismans. So we've got the Shard of Alexander to obviously boost the Ash of War that we're using with this weapon once again, the Magic Scorpion Charm which again boosts magic damage, and with the Ash of War being a magic move it will boost the damage output even more. And to help with the FP consumption as well, we've got the Carrion Filigree Crest, where we haven't got too much mind because we're obviously focusing on intelligence and mainly vigor as well. The Carrion Filigree Crest will help out with our FP consumption, and although we've only got 25 mind, it's essentially the same as having about 35 mind with the amount of uses we can get out of that amount of mind. And then lastly as well, to help balance the damage negation that we have with the Scorpion Charm, because it increases the amount of damage that we take from other enemies, we've got the Dragon Crest Shield, whichever variant you have, whether it's the +2 like me, the best one, just any kind of Dragon Crest Shield if you've got one in your game will help negate the extra damage you're taking from the Scorpion Charm as well. So we've got a nice mix of extra damage, extra protection, extra usage to use this weapon as much as possible with those talismans. And the beauty of this build and having such high intelligence is you can obviously mix mage spells. I personally use the Azure's Glintstone Staff just because that is a quicker casting time, and if you want to say put more points into dexterity to cast even quicker, then you can do if you want to chop and change those stats that we went through. But that allows us to use things like Terra Magica, which again will boost the damage output that we're using with this weapon. And then also in our right hand, along with the Death's Poker, I would highly recommend getting any dagger which you can put the Golden Vow Ash of War on. This will then obviously prevent you from having to put points into Faith to use the Golden Vow incantation, and also this will be helped out with the Carrion Filigree because you'll be using less FP using the dagger and the Golden Vow Ash of War than you would using the incantation. So you've got the same benefits of having that boosted defense and the extra attack at very very minimal cost. And then just to throw in some extra damage output as well, of course, we've got the Wonder Physic Flask, which we can put the Magic Shrouding Crack tier in, as well as the Opaline Hard tier. That's what I go with, because although you're seeing me use heavy armor probably on the screen already, for the final build we are going to be using the Spellblades armor set, or Rogier's armor set, to increase again the amount of damage that we do. So having the Opaline Hard tier will just boost our defense even more, allowing us to obviously survive a lot easier if we do unfortunately get hit by any bosses. You can of course use whatever armor that you want. I would say if you want that extra protection, feel free to use a better armor set, especially if you're later on in the game, because obviously those enemies are going to be doing a lot more damage to you. And then when you get comfortable using this weapon and able to use its abilities better, because it does take a little while to get your hits off, but once you learn the attack moves and the patterns of your enemies, you can then probably start introducing the Spellblades armor just to give you that extra damage output, because why not? And I'll be completely honest with you guys, I've absolutely slept on this weapon. I knew it was a thing, and I've seen it in other content creators like live streams, videos, things like that, and I have seen it do an absurd amount of damage. I just never realized quite how much damage it was doing. The Ash of War has sort of 3 different unique finishing moves with it. You can just press the LT or L2 button to basically summon that ball of Ghost Flame magic, which will eventually explode and does damage enemies over time if they're in that sort of like Ghost Flame ball. But the idea with this Ash of War is to either follow up with a quick attack to leave a trail of that Ghost Flame in front of you, or to heavy attack to make a massive Ghost Flame explosion. And those two deal exceptionally more damage than obviously just pressing your Ash of War button and leaving it to explode by itself. More notably, the best one out of the two for the heavy and the light attack is the light attack follow-up move. Much like how you probably come up against a Deathbird before and they've just left that annoying lingering Ghost Flame on the floor dealing constant frost build-up, well now you're doing that to your enemies instead. You can also chain these, so leaving multiple lines of Ghost Flame damage for your enemies to walk into, and that's the thing that's going to be dealing all of that damage that we mentioned at the very beginning. If you're lucky enough to also hit the enemy with the initial explosion with the light attack, you do like a nice bonus damage at the very beginning, but then as I say, you've got that trail of lingering Ghost Flame constantly doing frost build up, which is amazing in this game. I think frost is the best effect in the entire game because it slows your enemies down, increases the amount of damage that they take, and just allows you to obliterate them even more than what you're doing already. I know in some of the boss fights that I'm using for the footage in the background, I wasn't quite doing 20,000 damage, but that's because I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what worked rather than maybe looking up a different video online. I like to do it for myself and try and test different things for myself, so it took me about 2 or 3 hours to perfect this build and get it right and obviously figure out all the neat little tricks with it. But in the end, we were able to obviously do upwards of 20,000, and like the comments I showed at the very beginning, and I'm sorry if I absolutely butcher your name, mate, but Noobsabot, they obviously let us know that you can do up to 30,000 damage, even more so with this particular weapon. I don't know whether they mean for 150 builds if it's got that kind of potential. I know he's going to be talking about adding extra bonuses like perfumes into the mix, things like Shabiri's Howl, finding a way to get that perfect mix of absolutely all of the additional benefits that you can put onto your character and all the different buffs. But I'll be honest, 20,000 damage with a single use is more than enough to carry you through the entire game. So even without those additional buffs, just on its own, it's just incredible to use. I know I've been sleeping on this weapon, and I don't want you guys to be sleeping on this weapon anymore because it genuinely is insane. So don't be like me and not use this weapon at all. Definitely go and use this weapon. You can also mix this in with obviously a different kind of mage build. If you want to also do like a Ghost Flame sort of mage kind of vibe, you can do that as well, and obviously mix and match this weapon into all sorts of different builds around intelligence. Or if you want to focus on strength and dexterity as well, you can maybe even add the Darkmoon Greatsword in to have like a heavy weapon and then use this for the Ash of War. Set up things like that and just make an absolutely crazy build. And if you do obviously have more levels and you're further into New Game Plus, because I'm only in New Game Plus 2 for this and obviously only focus on level 150 builds, I'm sure there's all sorts of different combinations that you can mix this into. So yeah, that is pretty much everything for this video, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Obviously thank you to those of you that made me aware of this weapon because I was truly missing out. But now you guys know not to miss out and go and grab this weapon for yourselves. so definitely go and do that. Obviously feel free to let me know down in the comments below how you would improve this build or make it any better for a level 150 character, because I'm sure you guys know a hell of a lot more about the game than I do and can probably make this build even better. So it'll be interesting to know what sort of things you guys would do and what sort of things you run to make this build even better. And again, let me know in the comments down below what weapons you want to see next. I'm more than happy to take suggestions on what weapons you want to see me make a build around to see if it's worth doing or see if it's not worth doing, because that's what these videos are for, to help you guys out to enjoy the game once again and hopefully keep you entertained until the DLC comes out. But other than that, make sure you're also giving this video a like if you happen to like this at any point. Make sure you subscribe for more incredible builds such as this. But for now, thank you all for watching. You're all freaking legends, and I guess I'll see you in the next video of whatever it is that we make. Bye bye.